Business Success Tip. Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you can learn to make more money in less time and have more fun, especially the more fun. I'm Paul Sanneman. I'm the founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. So I have as my guest today, Kirk Armstrong from Armstrong Sales Coaching. And my guess is a lot of you people out there listening to this think you can already sell. But maybe that's not the truth. You never know. So anyhow, so Kirk, tell them a little about background, backstory, and why they should listen to you in the first place.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. That's a great question. I get asked often how I even get into the profession, and it's kind of backwards or by accident, if you will. I was a struggling sales guy. I was doing real well. I graduated from college and was selling for a company, and I did pretty well. Okay, I did pretty well for myself, but boy, was I working hard. And I really thought to myself, there's got to be an easier way to get this done. I'm just not where I need to be or where I want to be. So more or less, I ran into a guy that does what I do today. He was a sales coach. And when I learned some of the things that he taught and I heard them out loud, I knew immediately it was better than what I was doing. And I was also surprised how easy it was. And I said, geez, I can't believe I didn't think about this. I can't believe I couldn't come up with this, but I didn't. And most people don't. So I followed it. And boy, did it make a difference for me. It made me feel proud of being a professional salesperson because of the things I learned. I wasn't trying to talk people into things and push them to do things they didn't want to do. It was more of a questioning process system and all the little different systems that I was taught. It just made my life easier. Well, long and short of it is, that really progressed my career. I went through sales director, VP of sales. I took that route, always bringing training with me and other trainers with me as I went. And you know what? At some point, I got pretty darn good at this stuff. And that's when I ended up going out, joining a company, doing what I do, and then eventually started my own organization, which is Armstrong Sales Coaching.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple. I think one of the obvious one is that sales that not have the best reputation. You all think of used car salespeople. You all think, and I have noticed, I've been coaching contractors for many, many years. A lot of them, when I say you need to learn how to sell or you're a salesperson, it's sort of like you're a bad guy. It's like, do I really have to, tell people sell? And I say, well, look at the great salesmen, Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna,
Right.
And so, but admittedly, how do you overcome the indoctrination that a lot of us have had in our society, especially, Western culture, the way it is, that being a salesman is not the most honorable profession?
Yeah, and you know what? We fight that every day, and I'm trying to solve that one person at a time, okay? Because what happens, I think, is, Paul, and it's not on purpose. I think people that are not trained in the profession of selling, they feel that they don't know really how to go about it professionally. So what they do is they do what they've learned or what they've seen, which is
Right.
probably not the best way. So the way to get out of that is to earn it. You have to earn it. It's not by saying to somebody, I'm not trying to sell you anything, because as soon as we say that, people don't trust you. They think you are.
That's a lie to begin with, right?
That's a lie.
Starting out with a lie is never a good thing.
Right. I agree. So it starts when, let me give you an example, a real life example that applies, right? If somebody were to ask, like a contractor, any question like, do you ever get involved with complicated situations like these? That would be a question where most untrained professionals would say, of course we do. And they jump at that answer thinking they're building credibility. But in essence, what they're doing is they're making themselves look like that scary salesperson we don't trust, because everybody says they get involved with complicated situations, even if they've never done it, because they want to gain credibility, they think.
Right.
Right. So in that example, and just making a generic example, do you work with, this is a little different. Do you work in situations like this? This is complicated. I would rather have somebody ask a question there and say, Well, sure, we've worked in situations like this sometimes, but let me ask you something. What is complicated about it to you? Help me understand why you're asking me about complicated. And you know what? You might find out that they've tried something that didn't work, or they've had a bad experience with something, and then you discover what they really are looking to solve. And that would be an example of how not to look like that stereotypical salesperson.
Right.
Does that make sense, the way I'm
That
saying
makes
it?
sense. So, well, what do you find? You've trained lots of, I'm assuming, contractors to learn how to sell. So,
Right.
one of the transitions I find in years of coaching, the transition is most difficult. You've got a craftsperson, could be a carpenter, could be an electrician, could be somebody who's in the crafts, and their self-worth is based on doing a great job, right? In fact, I even heard an HVAC guy said, I really don't want to hire a great craftsperson because they go out and rather than selling what they need, they try to fix the old thing because it makes them look better. I go, no, right? So,
Right.
so how do you help people make that transition from a craftsperson to a entrepreneur salesperson?
I think it starts with, and I think in both cases, you're doing a good job for both sides. I think it starts with learning systems. We're going to call them systems again, back to that word. Learning productive systems for asking questions. To me, that's where it would start. That's not what all sales is, of course. But, asking good questions, it starts with, as an example, asking open-ended questions so you can get some information instead of asking yes, no questions. We have in our training, we call it logistical versus sales. Instead of asking questions about what they're looking for and the materials they're looking for and those types of questions, maybe they can start asking questions about, what's driving the project and what are some of their biggest concerns for doing this that maybe they're a little worried about. I think it's good to start and to kind of make both of those kind of coexist. I think the strategy I would offer would be to just become better and skilled at asking good questions instead of trying to talk so much about what it is that you do and how you do it.
I'm sure the more you listen, the smarter you get, right? So
Isn't that, yeah, like someone once said, someone famous once said, seek to understand before you are sought to be
be
understood.
understood. Absolutely. So when you're asking those kind of questions, how do you differentiate between logistic questions and questions that make me look like a salesperson that I don't want to be in the first place? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, you got to be careful. To me, it's more about. It's interesting. I brought this to a group I was with today. I thought that they were trying to sell a little too hard. I'm trying to be in that person. So one of my recommendations was, we really, as quote unquote salespeople and even contractors of any kind, I believe we should have a hat on that's more of a servant mentality. And if we have this servant mentality as a salesperson, that means, hey, my first job is to figure out what it is that might help you. And it may or may not be something I can even do or provide. But if I can figure out what is driving you to do this, what are your biggest concerns with the project of this nature? Just some of the things that might be keeping you up at night. I don't know that it comes off as sales if you're trying to be genuine about serving them. I'm trying to figure out the best way to help this person. So I'm going to walk into that situation as with a servant mentality, if you will, rather than a one of, I want to get this deal.
Okay, so now tell me how you get the servant mentality when you just did a sales course that says close 5 times.
Well, that may not be the right course. They don't. I'm not sure those courses align. The
Right.
servant mentality and you can read a book that says 1,000 closes, and at the heat of the moment, how many of those are you really going to remember?
Right.
And not only that, but I think it's going to make you look bad. So I like to teach the open is the close. I'm not, yeah, there's closing things you can say and ask, but I'm a bigger believer of let's start this conversation with such a good demeanor with this person not lying about things we can or can't do, but just try to let them know that I'm here to just do the best I can to try to, if I can, help you here. And if we can come off as genuine like that, and not answer every question that to make it sound like it should fit. Sometimes even push it away a little bit, well, sure, we've helped with that, but you know what? I probably ought to ask you some questions to make sure that what I'm hearing is accurate. So just that little push away right there tells someone that you're not jumping in too quick. So
Right.
I'm not a
Well,
big believer in closing like that.
okay, well, now we've all heard, the know, like, trust thing, right?
Yeah.
So in your process, how do you work for the know, like, trust scenario?
So I'm gonna move it around a little bit with what you said, Paul. I hear the advice a lot out there with people where they believe that your job, when you go on a sales call, we'll call it for a moment, even if it's one of these calls we've just chatted about. Some people believe that your job is to be their friend, right? Become friends. And if we do that, they'll trust me.
Right.
And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think your goal should be to make them not like you, of course, but there's not as much of a correlation between likability and sales closes, if you will, than there is with things like comfort and respect. So we teach it differently. We don't teach you, because think about it. You're trying to be best buddies. If you do best buddies, you're saying things insincere just to get them to like
I
you.
mean,
You're
you just like,
no,
hello, my name's Paul, let's get married, right? I like your first name. Like it's a big leap, right?
it's a big leap. They're, oh, what a beautiful family. It's a residential call and they're talking about the dog and how beautiful of a house. And it's like, do you really feel that way? Or are you just pumping
Right.
me up because you want to be friends, right?
Right.
Want us to appear as friends. And even that's residential, but commercial, same thing. Oh, what a beautiful building. And boy, you guys have done a great job. And we pump them full of compliments and we say things. And I just don't prescribe to that. I have a belief system that says, hey, definitely make them comfortable with you. And we teach a bunch of skills to do that. But it's also about respect. I think you should say things that may not be things they always want to hear, but it might be the thing that they need to hear. And I think people
Well,
like that.
we get the know you part. Now let's talk about the like and the trust you part. So
Mhm.
if you want to get somebody to like you and trust you, what you're saying is, even if they don't like you, they may not trust you totally. If they respect you, that's as good, or does for certain serves the same purpose.
100%. So what I'm saying is when you look at studies, it's really more about if you can gain someone's respect, there's a higher correlation with them doing business with you than if they like you per se. Okay.
Okay.
If that's the only thing is, hey, that seems like a really nice guy. That doesn't mean they're going to necessarily work with you. But if you really respect what they're saying and you say, I really believe that person, and that's where the trust to me is more earned through that, because it's more genuine than it is, getting someone to try to like you, because we can fake that a lot.
So tell me, how do you get, let's do a rheologist for fun. You're coming, I want you to
Yep.
walk me through, walk in the front door. Hi,
Mhm.
Mrs. Jones. Thank you for, now, I'd like to clarify the audience. There's two aspects of sales. There's marketing and sales. I'm going to say marketing is everything you do to get the phone to ring or whatever, some kind of lead show up in your face. And sales is everything you do to convert that lead into a sale. So my understanding is that, Kirk's specialty is converting from wherever you got the lead. It could be on your website, it could be referral, it could be whatever. How do you convert that lead into a sale? And I'm assuming, how do you convert that lead into a sale that is best for the client and best for you and also profitable?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's go back to respect question. I want you to walk in the front door. Hi, Mrs. Jones. Just run me through a little, couple of minutes here.
Yeah, sure. So, there's nothing wrong. Let's make it clear here. There's a good point to make. I think there's nothing wrong with having a little bonding and rapport when you first walk through the door. If it is a residential call, you don't want to just say, okay, what am I here to do? I mean, that's ridiculous, right? Let's be friendly, obviously. And I said that comfort, right? So, it's okay to say, hey, well, listen, thank you for for having me to your home. And it's okay to even give them a small compliment about, I enjoy the area. This is a nice area. Or I like the front of your home walking in through the door. Or, hey, it's so nice to meet you. How long have you lived here? I think questions like that there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we as humans should do, I believe. But
Okay.
it only goes so far, right? I don't think that should be the only goal.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer, as an example, if I want them to respect me and I also want to bond with them at the same time, I might pretty quickly get into okay, well, hey, thank you for having me to your home to look at your project. And maybe we get respect first by asking about time, which nobody seems to do. So to me, it's about that could be a question as an example, like how much time do you have to do this right now? How long, you're going to just introduce me to your project. How long do you have? Let me be respectful of your time. Oh, I dedicated a half hour for this. I dedicated an hour. Okay, that sounds great. We'll make sure that we're wrapped up in that time. I promise. That right there. I mean, I can't think of contractors coming to my home. They don't really talk like that. Some of them have, but it's rare. So that's a little piece. And then maybe does that get us at least off on the right track, Paul?
Right. And then, okay, again, other ways of getting their respect. A lot of contractors come in and they'll say, we've been in business for 25 years, they'll start telling instead of selling that, all that stuff, right? So how do you prevent a contractor, especially when they're nervous, because it's sort of our natural go-to spot, right?
Yes.
That stays in the questioning, curiosity kind of, I want to find out about you mode versus this is how cool I am mode.
I totally agree with you, by the way. We covered that again today in this afternoon's program. It's about, I asked the audience, so to speak, what do you think the average stereotypical salesperson says when someone asks them, why don't you tell me a little bit about your company? What kind of things come out of their mouth? And we went around the room and people came up with things. We all hear this. It's, how long you've been in business, how great your experience is, how many people you have, how come you have so many of the greatest people, you're experts at all of these things.
Right.
So it becomes like you said, it becomes all about them and all about talking.
Right.
Rather
Well,
than
I
that,
learned something just as an aside. I teach a lot of people how to work with architects because architects can send contractors a lot of work. And I say the key in the first meeting or two is not to talk about yourself. When you walk into the meeting and say you're interviewing, I may have some projects I can give to you. Tell me about you as an architect, and they say, tell me about your company. No, let's not talk about my company. I'm more interested in you. And you literally almost don't even go into that. You know what I mean? You say, I'm more interested in you in this remodel rather than telling you how great I am. And I find out that works because as long as you're listening and you're not like bait and switch and saying, this is why you should buy my stuff, I find out that you get a lot more rapport a lot faster than telling people how great you are.
Totally agree with that. And there's a number of approaches to get there, but absolutely. In fact, if you have to talk about yourself and they really want to know about your company, I mean, they can ask you specific questions, of course you can answer, but I like this phrase. I mean, I would love if more people would try this on for size. Instead of telling people about yourself and what you do and all about you, why not talk about some of the situations you've helped people with, or some of the concerns that you've heard that you were able to help solve. That to me triggers things in someone's head. When you start talking about these are some of the situations we will walk into and try to help people with, they're listening and processing. And when they hear something that hits a chord, they're going to ask you about it. Right. And let's face it, they don't really want to know how long we've been in business and how big we are and et cetera, et cetera. They don't care. They care about, can you help me?
Right. And so asking, I think I agree. Reversing that when they say, I say, well, I'm before I tell you about my company, let me hear a little bit more what you need, or let's see the projects. You're drawing them out because you're genuinely concerned about them, not about you, right?
That's right. I think it's important to not even, I'm not going to use the phrase turn around, because it's okay to answer a couple things about ourselves, but the ultimate goal is not to tell them about us. The ultimate goal is to ask them what are their biggest concerns? What are they're probably worried about something. There's probably, maybe in the past they've been frustrated with going through this before. I need to figure out, as a salesperson, where that hot button is that is really getting them fired up, so that I make sure I don't do that to them, and also I can get them to where they want to go.
Now, I don't know if you agree with that, but a lot of people say you're supposed to find the pain point. Is that a good term or is that a bad term in your
I
opinion?
like pain point. I mean, you can use it, doesn't bother me. I mean, I've heard negative and positive talk about that, but I think I like the concept. I think it's important to find what people's pain is, or it's important to find out. Again, I want to know if someone's hiring. Let's look at someone remodeling a kitchen. That there's a lot of concern and worry before they hire someone. Is this person going to do what they say they're going to do? Are they going to be frustrated with the timing that I'm going to put them through? Are they really worried about getting people on site? They start working. Next thing you know, where are they? They're not back.
Or they're going to change order you to death or something, right?
Change orders to death. Yeah. So before we even start the project, shouldn't we find out some of the things of, we want to know about your project, of course, but let's also talk on the way of doing that. What are your biggest concerns with these things? And quite frankly, Paul, a sidebar for your people listening is, you'll also, when you talk like this and ask questions like this, find out sometimes that, this may not be a prospect or a potential person I want to work with. Because
absolutely.
they're saying
just like, I just fired my last three contractors. I'm in a lawsuit with 2 of them, but you look better.
Right? You're right. Right. It's like, boy, am I glad I asked some questions that didn't have to do just with the project, right?
Right. So what do you find? You've done a lot of sales training. What do you find is the most difficult process or thing you need to teach contractors so they can do a better job? You've done this a lot. So there must be a couple of things that contractors have in common that you have to get them to overcome in order to make that transition or improve their sales abilities.
Yeah, boy, that's a great question, Paul. And there's so many things. I'll start like this. I think sometimes it's the little things that they miss. I'm not a big believer that, getting the difference between getting in a sale and getting no sale is this giant gap sometimes we think it is. I think oftentimes it's these little tiny things that contractors and non-contractors, quite frankly, do, that are in the sales profession that either turn people off or don't allow them to keep that proverbial door open. And so it could be anything from not reading your audience, where, hey, this person's done talking, and why are you still talking? That would be an example. That there was just a recent study saying that only 2% of these conversations between salespeople and customer lasted the length of time that the consumer actually wanted. Well, that tells us a long story about, I think, not just contractors, but salespeople in general. They don't read the room. And sometimes they go too far, too long, too much information on things people don't care about. So I would say that little thing could be a big thing. I always coach my contractors. Let's not give information unless they've asked for it, or you verified that it's important to them. Otherwise, you're just talking to yourself. And I think that one little thing can get in the way.
Well, I mean, that'd be great. Maybe people should make a list in their head or even physically on a piece of paper. These are the things that are important to me. How long I'm in business, what I do, they get paid, all the stuff that I consider important in this project, and make another list. This is what the client considers important. And my guess is a different list.
100% right. That's a great idea. Yeah, I would get, you're right. You're right. I should do that. I'm just thinking right now, that'd be a good little exercise I might do in my next training session. But
because, I'm thinking about how cool I am. Are they going to pay? Is this deal going to happen? Am I going to make my next month's whatever overhead? Are they going to be difficult to deal with? I need to tell them how cool I am. And that's a whole list, which is all your stuff, right?
Right.
You're coming to this meeting with your emotional garbage, for lack of a better term,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. We
And
all
you
think we
show up with
know.
this, and they come with their stuff, right? You're both showing up with your emotional garbage cans. Now the question is, are you going to get into theirs or not, right? And so the
Yep.
truth is, you got to start looking through the garbage can and say, oh, you don't trust people. Oh, your dad was a contractor and beat you as a kid, or whatever, right? It's like
Right.
there's that stuff, and the more you get into their stuff, I think the more you're going to be able to do the project. Does that make sense?
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. So what you're saying now is, and you almost open Pandora's box to a litany of other things, like, therefore, don't make assumptions. Don't believe just because you believe something's important, it should be important to them. People buy for their own reasons. When people make statements to you like, we're really looking for something that is going to be durable, or that something that's going to last. That is not a time to prove why you are durable and you will last. They didn't ask you, if you think about it, they just made a statement about durability. They're not asking you yet to prove that you are. Maybe they had more to talk about with that. Maybe ask them a question about, well, when you say durability, why is that? Tell me why that's so important.
Yeah, I agree. People come with their own projections, right? So
Mhm.
if my thing is, oh, I'm sure I'm gonna tell them what's gonna cost and it's gonna be too expensive, right? So that you come in with your own mindset about cost. And that's in your brain, right? So it's like not quite an obsession, but you're all concerned about the price. And they may or may not be concerned with the price. I don't know, but sometimes
Yeah.
contractors like bring that stuff with them and almost project it on the client, right?
That's correct. Yeah, because you know what? In fairness, they've probably heard it 85 times before in that
Right.
manner. But we use that example all the time, Paul, in our training. If someone says, like, look at this simple statement, boy, that's awfully expensive. Okay, that is just a statement. If you really break that down and really analyze it, it could mean that it's too much for them. Yes, and we could assume that as a contractor. But alas, they did not say that. All they said was that's expensive. It could mean they're comparing you to someone else. It's over their budget. They just thought that seems like a lot of money. Or, you know what my favorite is? They're going to buy it anyway. They just needed to say that out loud. Wow, that's expensive. And if you just let them talk, they might say, that's why we're going to buy it. They could
Right.
literally buy it.
I've always heard this story about the guy's got, whatever, a Mercedes in his garage and a Ferrari, and then he says, well, I can't afford my kitchen remodel, right? We've all been there, right?
Right, right.
So
Yes,
expensive is in the eyes of the beholder here, right?
you are correct. You are correct. And so it becomes all those little things, doesn't it? I mean, all the things you and I are talking about, I don't think there's one big thing that I see contractors missing. I think it's little things that add up and then they win or lose at the end.
Right. So I would say, if you're listening to this podcast, my guess is in the last 3 weeks, you've missed a sale. My assumption on my part, maybe say ask that to me, but my guess is you've missed a sale in the last 30 days. And you're going, why did I miss that sale? It makes so much sense. They needed what I do. I'm really good at what I do. And I didn't get the sale. I don't know why. So in my opinion, that's when you call Kirk, because he can probably tell you, right?
Maybe,
Maybe. So
maybe.
I would say only call Kirk if you have lost a sale in the last 6 months. Then you have to buy. If you haven't lost any sales in the last 6 months, don't bother to call
Don't
Kirk.
need my help for sure. No.
You don't need his help. But if you've lost a sale in the last 6 months, my guess he can give you some really good advice. Now, how do they get in touch with you, Kirk?
Well, I guess the easy way would just be to go to my website, and it's easy to contact me through that, right? There's forms all over the place on there. My phone number's there. My email address is on there to contact me, and it's real simple. It's www.armstrongsalescoaching.com.
That's pretty easy.
Pretty easy, long but easy.
Right. Well, that's good. So I suggest you give Kirk a call if you haven't made a sale in the last 60 days, because, when you think about it, you spend a lot of time and energy to get that sales appointment, whatever it is for you. And let's say your conversion ratio is, I'm picking a number, 50%, right? If Kirk can take it from 50% to 60% or 65%, that 15% goes straight to the bottom line because you've already spent all the money doing everything else. So, there's probably nothing you can do better to create more revenue faster than increasing your closing ratio. And my guess is Kirk is really good at that.
Well, I appreciate it, Paul. I don't know what started this, but we happen to work with a lot of contractors. And I think it's just because, I don't know, maybe the stuff we teach works well with them, and that leads to the next one. Perhaps that's the case, but we enjoy it. And we think in that particular industry, it works really well.
Right. So give Kirk a call. I'm sure you'll find it very interesting. I'm sure the first phone call, you just sort of a discovery call, right? You figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, that's always the case. We don't even know, let's face it, if the type of help we provide is what someone needs. First thing we do is qualify as well. We need to figure out, is this a fit or not?
Obviously, and you better be good at sales because that's what you do, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, well, thanks, Kirk. I appreciate you being on. This is a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Had a ton of fun myself. Appreciate it.